Have you ever been looking at a house for sale and just thought, how on earth did they land on that specific price? Especially when the place has all these unique quirks. It might feel like a total mystery, but there's a real science to it. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and break it all down. I mean, that's the real question, isn't it? Every single property is different. It's got a particular view, a weird layout, its own little history. So how do you even begin to compare them fairly, to figure out what a place is actually worth? And that's the thing, pretty much every property is one of a kind. No two houses are ever really identical. And it's exactly because of this uniqueness that appraisers can't just throw a number out there. They need a system, a data-driven method to find that true market value. Okay, so let's get into it. Section 1, the real estate puzzle. How do appraisers solve this thing? Well, they use a scientific process that's designed for exactly this kind of challenge. The entire goal here is to basically level the playing field. You take a bunch of different properties, we call them comparables, and you tweak their sale prices so you can make a true apples-to-apples comparison with the house you're trying to value, which we call the subject property. Now, to make this work, appraisers follow one super simple but really powerful rule. Honestly, it's the foundation for everything that comes next. And here it is, the golden rule. Adjust the comparable, not the subject. I know, it might sound a little bit backward at first, but think about it. We never, ever change the thing we're trying to value. That's our constant. Instead, we change the price of the other houses to make them look like ours. So here's how that logic actually plays out. If a comparable home is better than our subject property, let's say it has a stunning brand new kitchen, we have to deduct the value of that kitchen from its sale price. On the flip side, if the comparable is inferior, maybe it's missing a bathroom, we have to add the value of a bathroom to its price. See? The goal is always to make the comparable property match our subject. All right, Section 3, an appraiser's toolkit. So how do we know exactly how much to add or subtract? This isn't just a guessing game. Appraisers have some very specific, evidence-based tools for this. The absolute best tool in the box is something called paired data analysis. You could call it the gold standard. It is the cleanest way to figure out what one single feature is worth. The whole idea is to find two houses that are identical in every single way except for that one thing you're trying to put a price on, like, say, a swimming pool. Let's see how this works. Okay, first up, we've got Salaya. This place has a pool, and it's sold for 10.5 million pesos. Now here's Sale B. It's pretty much identical, same size, location, condition, everything. But it's sold for 10 million pesos. And, you guessed it, it does not have a pool. So the difference in their prices, that 500,000 pesos, is all because of that one single feature. The market has literally told us what it's willing to pay for that pool. It's a 500,000 peso feature. It's so simple but so powerful. Now, this kind of adjustment, a fixed dollar amount, or in this case, a peso amount, for a real physical feature, that's called an absolute adjustment. We use it for tangible things you can add or take away from a property, like an extra garage or another bathroom. But hey, not everything is a physical object, right? For those bigger market-wide forces, things like being in a fantastic location or just the market going up over time, appraisers use percentage adjustments. These are relative, based on the property's price. Let's just quickly break down the difference here. So the peso adjustments, they're fixed, they're for physical things, and you just add them on. Percentage adjustments, though, they're variable, they're based on market forces, and they have this compounding or multiplicative effect on the final value. Totally different beasts. Okay, Section 4, putting the pieces together. Now, this is so important. You can't just apply these adjustments in any random order you feel like. Nope. To get it right, there's a strict sequence you have to follow. And here's that sequence. First, you adjust for the transaction itself. Stuff like weird financing terms. Then, step 2, you apply those big picture market adjustments, the percentage-based ones. And only after all that, as a final step, do you make the specific peso-based adjustments for the property's physical features. That order is absolutely critical because you have to calculate those percentages before you start adding or subtracting fixed amounts. So where does all this happen? Well, all of this complex work is organized in one master tool, the adjustment grid. This is the appraiser's command center, where they lay out all the data and systematically work their way to the final value. Let's walk through a simplified version. You see the raw sale prices for each comparable right there at the top.
Then we go line by line applying the adjustments. We're adding 5% for time, then we're subtracting 10% because the comp's location is better than ours, and then another adjustment for its size. You follow that logic all the way down, and you end up with a final adjusted price for each home right at the bottom.
And that brings us to our final section, reaching the final number. After all that math, we have a few different adjusted prices. The last step is to turn these numbers into one single credible value. And just look at what happened here. We started with prices all over the place from 4.8 million all the way up to 5.2 million. But after our adjustments, look how much closer they are. They're all clustered together now. The whole process has narrowed that range and really boosted our confidence in the result. So, do we just add them up and divide by 3? Absolutely not. An appraiser performs what's called a reconciliation. This is where they use their professional judgment. They give more weight to the most reliable comparable, and that's almost always the one that needed the fewest or the smallest adjustments.
Okay, let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. First, paired data is always the strongest evidence for an adjustment. Second, that sequence we talked about, it is non-negotiable. Third, whatever you do, never just blindly average the results. And finally, just remember that a truly credible value is a mix of hard data, clear logic, and, importantly, professional judgment.
It's not just the cost of the tiles in the toilet, is it? It's what the market, the actual buyers out there, are willing to pay for it. And now, you know the science behind figuring that out. Thanks for diving into this with me today.